Hi everybody and welcome to United States of a Movie podcast. We're the movie podcast that makes every Monday a fun day as we get together and we talk movies. But we have a purpose here because we here at the United States of a Movie podcast are trying to find one movie to define each state in the United States. Now we've done one full journey around the United States. We're just now finishing season 1 with our final special. We're doing a State of Fear special for Halloween, which is very exciting. So I cannot wait to get started because we've got 3 incredible movies to talk about. My name is Ollie Petchku. I love movies. I hosted EPAD on Max on Cinemax. I live, breathe movies, and I found 2 amazing co-hosts that love movies just as much, if not more than me. Well, first of all, welcome back Will Hirsch, sitting as always in the middle of his video store in the center of Hollywood. Will, welcome back to the show, buddy.
So great to be here, especially after I reconstituted my body for 15 years to come back to life just to do this. So
well, I'm glad you did, and I'm glad that one of the movies that you chose did exactly that as well. But as well, before we get started, if you're listening, you may not notice this, but if you're watching our video, there just seems to be an abandoned bathroom of some kind. Ryan Seiler, buddy, are you there? Oh, there you are.
My God, what a nice 7-day slumber. It looks like the rest of my food matrix has been consumed, and I am ready to go. I'm looking
Awesome.
Young and feeling great.
have you thrown up any boobs recently?
Well, no, I mean,
Gonna say, man, you're looking younger. I mean, I just kind of want to pump it up.
I mean, there is this.
Got to pump it
I gotta sew this fucking gaping hole back up, but I'll deal with that later. That's other me's problem.
That all this is going to become clear, guys, because like I said, we're doing our State of Fear Halloween special episode. And as we have established on this show before, I'm a gargantuan pussy when it comes to horror movies. So I actually put the responsibility, the onus for this week on the 2 fellas. And boy, oh boy, guys, I think this might be your magnum opus, the greatest 3 you've ever chosen. Are we accidentally, again, a proper movie podcast?
You gotta stop saying that.
Nailed it.
We will never become a real podcast.
Yeah.
And that's
God
the
is my witness.
That's the United States of a movie guarantee.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's start with Will's choice, which I had to be honest, was quite surprised by, but then realizing and going back that you were talking about this movie last year during State of Fear. Tell us your which seemed to be peculiar choice.
Yeah, this is a movie I actually thought I picked it last year. I had to go back through our old episodes to make sure I didn't. I picked Exorcist 3, and it's one of my favorite horror movies of all time, even more so than the original one.
And that was so weird and surprising to me. Now, I have actually seen the first Exorcist. That movie, that proper shut me up. It's pretty good. But The Exorcist 3 is written and directed by William Peter Blatty, who is the writer of The Exorcist and Legion, which this movie is based off. He also got Oscar nominated or won the Oscar for writing the screenplay for Exorcist. So this guy is Mr. Exorcist, and he put together this movie, which we'll get into later, did get a little bit messed with by the studio, but it does have 2 absolutely balls-to-the-wall performances from George C. Scott and Brad Dourif, who are just dialed up to 11 in this movie. I don't know what they took before they did it. Maybe they took some sort of substance. But boy, oh boy, they were killing it in this movie.
Yeah,
they're
almost too good.
Yeah,
I feel like they were like too good for this type of movie. You know, it's like it's. Like, I felt like I was watching a really like high-end prestige drama, but you're watching The Exorcist 3.
It's amazing that The Exorcist 3 is so good, especially considering 2 is one of the worst movies ever made. 2 is so bad, and then you go to this one, and it's like I cannot believe it's literally like the difference between watching Samurai Cop and then Lethal Weapon. It is that level difference.
What about Loaded Weapon? I had weird expectations going into this. I'm not sure if they were high or low, but like I'm not a huge this genre of horror, like religious horror, like this type of thing, like Your Immaculates or like The Omens and stuff. Really never.
Yeah, me neither.
It was never really my genre. So I was like, I don't know. I mean, I like the first Exorcist fine, but going to this, I was blown away by how stunning this movie looked. And it's incredible. Like it's,
No,
it's a
you're
banger.
saying that, and I'm like, I. To be honest, sometimes when you're texting, Ryan, it's hard to know whether you're being sarcastic or not. That's just
I don't
your
even know.
personality.
Yeah, I
But
don't
like,
even know.
but you know, I sort of like there was some excellent blocking. I really
Yeah.
liked there was some really good blocking in this movie. But then you say how well shot, but then when we get into the other two movies, every movie we shift,
Sure, yeah.
it's another step up. It's
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
step up. Like you know, like I said, guys, the Venn diagram of the overlaps of these three movies ended up being just one of the great sort of three watches. I did all three movies in one day, which was absolutely bonkers.
The
But, like,
overlap of all three movies is just women be crazy.
That's the message we want to get across on the United States of a Movie podcast.
And to be clear, we tried to get a woman guest on this podcast, and everyone said no.
I did actually try to get Mrs. And she's just like, well, horror movies, fuck no. So I was like, so I did try. But The Exorcist 3, it is at times, you know, yeah, it you're not quite sure what you're watching, especially the moment where Samuel L. Jackson, Patrick Ewing, and Fabio turn up when we head to heaven. Things
It's like-
got like
It's like the opener to a really bad joke, like, hey, so Fabio, Patrick Ewing, and Samuel L. Jackson walk into heaven. ... Like that's,
I was expecting Bill and Ted to sort of rock up or
yes,
something
it was
like
very
that.
much like the heaven in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
It's
That is my
dangerous.
first thought.
Yeah, dangerously close to like veering into that territory.
Bizarre scene out of left field.
I mean, the thing is as well is that so there is a director's cut which actually is on YouTube, and I wonder if we should actually just watch it for fun, guys. But it turns out that there was a bit of studio interference. So the book that this is based off is called Legion. Legion doesn't have any exorcisms in it, even though it is technically sort of like set in the same universe. And the studio's like, we need a sequel to Exorcist. We're calling it Exorcist 3. We're going to ignore Exorcist 2 ever existed, but you've got to put some exorcism in there. So they reshot the last third of the movie. They spent
makes
$4
sense.
million, $4 million on that exorcism scene, and they inserted. Thing is, no surprise to anyone, they inserted the character of that white-haired priest.
The
who
priest,
just
I was like, felt
shoehorned into
the whole,
movie for no
that
reason.
it's so
Yeah.
funny you say that, because I clocked it when it happened. I'm like, where is this coming from? Like all the additional footage they had to shoot for that felt very tacked on.
Yeah, and that and especially because there's another priest in the movie, not the one who's killed. There's another guy who's in the film, and you're like, why wasn't that guy set up? But so I've seen the alternate ending and stuff, and I will say this version, the version we saw, is better. Like, there's no question about it. It's a better end. You see the theatrical one, and or not the theatrical, the director's cut. It's very anticlimactic. It's very much like, oh, like that's it. So this ending's better. Still, I think it needed more work in order for it to fit. Like, it's still not great, but it's better than what we would have gotten.
I enjoyed it though.
Yeah, me too. It was kind of it was like a really, really good X-Files. Is kind of, and you know, and Brad Dourif turns up in the X-Files and does an absolutely amazing turn in that one. This also has Jason Miller coming back as, well, spoiler alert, Damien from the first movie, the priest that jumps out the window.
Oh,
you know, so yeah, that's what, like, you know, because I was like with Ryan as well, because Ryan was on the text going, Damien, is this a crossover with The Omen? I'm like, no, that's the guy from the first movie.
Shut up, nerd. No, I honestly didn't know, because I'd seen the original, but I, for some reason, was watching. I think I had just watched like the first, like the prequel that just came out for The Omen or some shit. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
like the first Exorcist.
First Omen.
The first Omen. Okay.
So the way it works,
all these felt weird to me. I don't know.
So if you've seen the first Exorcist, all right. So George C. Scott is playing the policeman from the first movie, but the original actor had by this point passed on. Like I said, Jason Miller comes back kind of as this sort of like the priest, but it kind of tells this sort of different story. It sort of crosses over with the Zodiac, doesn't it? It kind of sort of brings in this element of the Zodiac, this element of possession, and this element of like this legion of bad people who are just trying to sort of do all these sort of murders and stuff like that. At times this movie is kitschy, at times this movie is silly, but it's got a weird charm to it. I can't quite put my finger on why, but it does.
Yeah.
Any theories?
I think it just worked. It's honestly my favorite kind of sequel, which is like, it's not repeating the first one, But it's set in the same universe. You're dealing with a side character, like the detective character in the first movie is a very, very minor character. And this movie's like, well, now he's the main character. We're going to follow him. And it's just a very different story, but you're dealing with the same rules as the first movie. It's like the same, like I said, same universe. I love sequels like that, where it's like, hey, that story's done. This is a different story in the same universe.
I like that too. You don't get that nowadays anymore either. It's like everything has to be tacked on, and you got to cater and pander to so many different audience types. It's shit like this kind of gets lost.
But we say that, but at the same time, the last third of this movie was tacked on to make it.
That was honestly, arguably, my least favorite part of this film was like all of the exorcism style stuff. Like I liked the detective noir kind of stuff going on, where he's investigating these very grisly and graphic murders that he details explicitly. Like he keeps, when he's describing the young boy's murder, he just keeps fucking going. He's like, yeah, and they had spikes driven into his eyes, and then his head, it was removed completely. And it just keeps like going for several minutes. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, it's horrific.
Yeah, we get it. He's dead.
He's like, here, look at all the pictures.
But the movie, like I said, it's then we get this sort of like 20 minutes in the middle where it's these two sort of like soliloquies, really, from Brad Dourif and George C. Scott. These very, very like, you know, it's shot and lit in a very cool way, where you got the light onto each of them in the cell. And,
incredible!
And it's a pretty cool sort of choice to, like, you know, have. We understand that it's Jason Miller, but when it's Brad Dourif, when it's him playing the killer, you know, the Gemini killer instead of Zodiac killer, we see that actor instead.
Admittedly, it took me a few minutes to clock that they had changed that scene. I realized I was like, wait. I like looked down for a second. I'm like, whoa, what the hell? Really cool.
But like, it's rumored differently as to why. Because there's some rumors that Jason Miller just wasn't available. There's other rumors that Jason Miller was such a hardcore alcoholic at this point that it had turned his brain to mush and he can only really remember a few lines at a time. That's, again, I say rumor because the director didn't confirm that, but then you hear it sort of from other people.
There was no Twitter back then.
But like I always say, right, is that when you're forced into a corner, it creates, you know, forces creativity. And I liked the choice that they made, especially because Brad Dourif is fucking terrifying at times in this movie.
I do wish, though, that the entire the full runtime of this movie was just George C. Scott and the priest just hanging out, telling jokes and talking about. I mean, talk about like, give me like. I kept picturing him like this is just like The Odd Couple. It's just Walter Matthau and and just hanging out.
That's actually why I was bummed when the priest died. Because the first sort of 15 minutes is just like these guys with zingers,
they're just like two old dudes hanging out. Like, I don't know what the history is or the why, but like they go to the movies together and they're just like, they're kicking it, man. I like that.
The bit where George C. Scott, like, they go to see the movies because the priest character, this is played by Ed Flanders, not Ned, Ed Flanders. Loves to watch It's a Wonderful Life. They're going to see it for the 37th time. And I love the way George C. Scott just flashes his badge, goes, police business, or what is like, you know, official business, and like you see the priest in the background roll his eyes.
Dude, it's great. Like, their banter is so good together. I wish there was more of it. And I don't, the one thing I don't understand, which is like the classic Exorcist Omen thing where someone predicts they have a vision of their own death, and the movie opens with this like very long shot of him falling down the fucking stairs, like this like almost John Wick 4 style shot of him. That was a phenomenal stunt. But that's not at all. He's like, my head gets cut off and I roll down the fucking stairs, but that's not at all how he dies.
No.
Well, that's a callback to the first movie.
How the end of the first movie is that's what Damien does. So he gets possessed at the very end. They get the thing inside him instead of the little girl, and he immediately just launches out the window and he goes blah, 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 down the stairs. And then like you get that amazing bit with Max von Sydow doing the sort of the last rites kind of thing.
And correct me if I'm wrong, those are the stairs from Joker 1? Cool connection.
There's a little just interesting movie tidbit I remember. Correct me if I'm wrong, is it William Friedkin that did the first one?
Yeah, sure is.
So he's
why people got hurt on that movie.
Yes. Like he would fire like shotguns and stuff to make people jump. But it's the last bit there's an amazing bit of acting from Max von Sydow where he's doing the last rites and his hand is shaking, and they've done like a bunch of takes. And apparently Friedkin comes up to him and goes, "Do you trust me?" And he goes, "Yes, yes, I trust you." So William Friedkin smacks him in the face as hard as he can and goes, "Roll." And that's Max von Sydow just like on edge from just being bitch slapped, and it made an incredible take. But
I mean, definitely did, but
and that was like the third time. The first time he tried tickling him. The second time he tried,
yeah, tried all the tricks in the book.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna switch things up just a little bit. So this is gonna be our last episode of season 1 before we take a 1-week break, and we're gonna kick off season 2. Let's just keep rolling on Exorcist 3. Let's just roll through the 3 movies because we've built up some momentum, and I think it's going to work very well when we sort of segue into each of the movies that we watch. So we all started off watching Exorcist 3. So the way it's sort of happening in the movie is it starts kind of like Ryan was saying with a pretty gruesome murder. We start investigating it, and then people just start dropping like flies. The priest, his best mate, he has, I believe, every single drop of blood taken out of his body and placed in
little cups. And you'd think there'd be way more blood. Like I
had the same
pretty
thought.
nominal amount. Like it's like 16 little like sippy cups. Like
it's like the amount of shots I used to do on a Monday when I was in college. I'm like, where's the rest?
I was waiting for them to like pull the blanket off, and he's just like the deflated pot girl from the commercial, from the 90s commercials.
Yes.
Or like in Roger Rabbit, just the flattened husk.
It's I think though we were kind of primed because, you know, the movie we'll talk about later, some people have way too much blood.
Yeah, true.
So we had to find that balance.
Yeah.
I had that thought too, where I was like, I only see like 10 or 12 cups. I feel like human body has more blood, but
then the guy goes through.
But he did write some of it on the wall, so
sure. He goes through the process of how he did it. Like that shot in the hospital room, because the camera's like pulled way back, and you have George C. Scott here, and the doctor and the photographer in the back just clicking away. It's
just
crazy.
clicking, taking 65 photos of the table.
And the guy's like, "Do you fucking mind?" Like of all the blood, and he's like, "This is like my best friend here. We just like just saw it."
Click. He even gets like some guy like knocks him. "Hey man, do you want to stop taking?"
Sorry, we're glazing over something real quick. Like you're introduced to George C. Scott's like police officer partners, like the other officers in this, and the movie opens with like a machine gun of every single racial slur you can think of. Really set the tone for who these guys are. And but George C. Scott's cool, so that doesn't really.
Yeah, it's him talking to like the guy who I think did the police report.
Yeah.
And so it just starts with him being like, just so you, the audience, knows, this guy's a racist. Here are the things he says. You're just like, I just met this dude. Like, my God.
But
then
funny.
From that point on, they close off the hospital, and then it's just like, a series of murders that don't quite make sense because, like, everyone's kind of locked down, and then we kind of like, we see, that it's almost like what's the Nurse Ratched movie?
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's
One
Nest.
Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So we've got, all those guys off at the side, the sort of the Cuckoo's Nest guys. And then we've got the mean nurse that's not a mean nurse. And then we've got, just all these potential sort of murder victims.
The one like really high security wing of the hospital that you need it's like a double door that you need 2 codes to get through.
It's Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's just like that whole wing is like just over here. It's on the same floor. It's like
not separated. Just
it's literally Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. Like over there.
Yeah, the geography of it all. I mean, it sort of
doesn't matter.
I kind of feel like that's where you kind of start feeling like a bit of the I guess the budget or whatever. But it is very much kind of shot a lot in just a couple of locations. But that's where the movie takes a turn for the interesting because he goes down and it's bizarre. There's some strange cuts in this movie. There's some strange little jarring cuts or jarring moments. But it's the bit sort of where George C. Scott, as the police lieutenant, kind of like gets shocked because he realizes that the guy sitting there in that cell died 15 years ago. That's the priest from the first movie. And that's when it's like, even he's just going, what the fuck is going on? Of course, off the back of, and we're going to stop right now, we're going to talk about this, is he has a dream about his priest buddy in heaven. And we have an extended scene where George C. Scott's dream takes us to heaven, and it is like we said, it's Bill and Ted's. Bill and Ted's heaven.
Is this after
Fabio as an angel, Patrick Ewing as the angel of death, Samuel L. Jackson as a dubbed over sort of blind guy.
Okay, so it is him but it's not his voice.
It's not his voice.
Exactly.
Okay, that's why that's why I was like, no way, I couldn't.
That's why it's some other person saying motherfucker.
Angels motherfuckerly. This is after the priest is killed or before?
This is before.
Okay, okay.
And then he wakes up and the priest has been murdered after this.
It's an insane scene. Like, if you're listening at home, just go on YouTube and type Exorcist 3. I'm sure it'll populate with weird angel scene.
Yeah, it's because there's a band
really
playing.
Yeah,
we're just like, that's when I was just like, what is happening? But I'm on board.
It's like the worst jazz club you've ever been to. It's
yes.
There's a dog running around. Like, there's like a lot of weird iconography in this scene. It's trippy. It is trippy.
So it's set in Georgetown, and I guess I think Ryan, you made that connection with Patrick Ewing, but it's like, and then like,
and Fabio famously from Georgetown.
Right. So it's so bizarre, and that's what I mean is that this movie I was never scared of this movie.
No,
I was just in many cases just going, oh, that's an interesting shot. Okay, cool blocking.
It was intriguing. I was like engaged with the whole, like, there's a movie I love that's a really schlocky film like this called the First Power with Lou Diamond. The First Power with Lou Diamond Phillips, where it's like he's a detective investigating these crimes in LA, and it's a guy that's like possessing other people. So I love the whole detective side things of it. But when it gets too like metaphysically and Bible-y, I'm like, that does nothing for me. But I like the idea of him searching for this metaphysical killer.
Well, it's like that. Is it Fallen, the Denzel Washington?
Yeah.
That's another great one where it's like he's hunting the demon that can just go wherever.
And it was John Goodman the whole time.
Yeah. Or was it? I
don't remember.
But like, no, that's actually, I saw that years and years ago. But I remember that being a really good movie. And then from that point on, it's just it kind of becomes, it just a body drops every sort of like 10 to 15 minutes or so.
There's no reason, like rhyme or reason to who is being killed, right?
Well, there is. So the Gemini killer. So we do get this interesting bit about how, because we see this bit where George C. Scott comes in. It's a great bit of acting actually, but he's like, his friend is dead, and he comes over and he peels off one hand, and you see him just nod to himself. And then he goes over to the other hand and he looks and goes, and then he kind of looks at his friend and he's like, Jesus. But what comes out is that basically the cops had said that the Gemini killer would very often put something on a person's back or something. All the information they put out was fake. And it was a way of weeding out all of the bullshit. But these people are being killed the way the actual Gemini killer was killing people. Now, the reason it seems strange is because the Gemini killer had been put to death many, many years before, 15 years prior. So the fact is they're missing a finger on the left hand. The Gemini thing is carved into their right hand. And they've had, was it something else with the eyes? I can't remember. But it's that's when sort of things start getting, all right, the Gemini killer's being...
I love it. I love that twist of that was like the reveal of, he's like, I'm the only one that like knew this information. Me and only one other person or something, because he's talking to the nurse because he gets into an altercation with the possessed live action Chucky, Brad Dourif. And she's fixing him up, and you're like, oh, this nurse, she's not so bad, And he just revealed that they've been feeding the public wrong information to weed out the crackpots. But the reveal that he's like, no, I'm the only one that knew this. I thought that was really great. I was into that.
It was a clever, because that's based on like the real Zodiac, how they were like weeding out, all the fake Zodiac killers who's like, it's me. And it's like, they would put out fake information in the press. So
smart. I
liked using that real bit of history in here. It just kind of really helps ground it, especially like with all the craziness that's going on in this movie. Yep. It's like a real good bit of actual detective work that they worked into the film.
And then, so then he starts sort of going down, talking to his mate. And that's when, so we see, we know that's the guy. There's the big reveal for people that like The Exorcist. But then, kind of like I was saying, suddenly it becomes Brad Dourif, because whenever he's possessed, he's the Gemini killer. And then we're not really sure as to, that's the kind of the mystery is, but you're locked up. How are you murdering everybody? And it's kind of gets into the idea that when he goes to sleep, the non-nurse Ratchet is talking about his brain waves go off. And it's kind of like he's possessing other people. I think some of the like I said, the One Flew Over Cuckoo's Nest sort of people are getting possessed. He's using them to commit these murders.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, it's a good conceit. Like, you know, I kind of wish this movie had, like, you know, $10 million more and maybe John Carpenter directing it, who was offered, but, you know, but didn't. But I think the movie is very much propelled by the fact that George C. Scott just decided to show up to work every day.
Yeah.
And, you know, this moment, I can't remember what the line was. He's just, you know, he's sitting at a desk and he goes, "It's not in the papers." It's like, just
right.
Anyone
It's
else
not in the file. It's
Yeah.
not. Yeah.
That's
Slam to the
the
desk.
reveal of him going through that, I think, with the nurse or with the two other detectives in the room. It's really, he's like in a completely different movie. It's wild.
Yeah, he's just slowly like losing his mind throughout the entire
Yeah.
film. He's just becoming more and more depressed and unhinged, and understandable when your friend who's been dead for 15 years is coming back.
And
killing
if
people.
you listened at the beginning of the film, the man has a live fish in his bathtub that his mother-in-law is going to cook.
I loved that monologue. This is how you could tell this movie was made by a writer who finally is like, I could have some stupid director like write over my dialogue. This is all me, baby. You know.
Yeah, I was engaged.
I thank you for reminding me. There is a scene at the beginning. It's great characterization and it's great banter between the two guys.
Yes.
But he's just talking about I have not had a bath. You were standing very close to me. I have not had a bath for 5 days. There is a fish swimming in, and I'm just, they're clearly having fun. You know, sort of doing this again. And Will, you're right that anyone else would have like, all right, we're gonna take those 3 pages of dialogue and
but even William Friedkin would have tossed this.
Even when the priest is in the hospital room and George C. Scott comes to visit him, and the nurse walks in asking if he's like Mr. Goldberg or something like that. He's like, "No, you got the wrong fucking room, I assure you." And she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And he says, "May the Schwartz be with you." Like he drops a fucking Spaceballs reference, like.
Right.
Yeah.
Did this come out? This was 90s. Did this come out after Spaceballs? It had.
1990. Yeah.
Like,
so he does it. Yes.
Because if not, that would have been super xenophobic.
Mel Brooks just loves this movie. Yeah.
Don't forget, he's also in his hospital bed smoking.
Yeah. For sure.
Yet
awesome.
again,
It was the 90s.
the more of these old movies we watch, the more it's like, good God, everyone was smoking everywhere all the time.
This is back when everyone was fucking cool. And now we're just a bunch of milk toast pussies.
That scene in particular has one of my favorite like throwaway gags where George C. Scott is talking to his friend in the hospital bed, and he's like, "Did they have you tested for like such and such? You know, like, you know, maybe you have the same condition your brother, you know, had before he died." And the priest is like, "My brother died in Vietnam." Yeah, but there could be a connection.
Yeah.
Your brother died at 30. Yeah, but he was in Vietnam. You know, well, there could still be a connection.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I want just give me an odd couple with the two of them. Just great.
That's my one complaint, right? That's my I wanted to see, because I was really on board, because I wanted that priest and that cop to be solving this problem.
Yes,
right.
And that banter the whole way through the movie would have been fucking fantastic. And okay, we got the emotional hit when we lost the priest, but I'm like, no, 2 acts too early. Lose him in the 3rd act. Make it really hurt, because they're so funny. I'm like Ryan. I'm like, give me a whole movie of those guys.
They did such a good job of just easily establishing their friendship. Like, it was so crystal clear that they have been friends forever, and just that dynamic was great on screen. Really great. Will they? Won't they?
Yeah. And did you guys catch the other secret cameo in the that restaurant scene?
Negative.
It is blink and you miss it.
Larry
King.
Yes, I did see that. Yes.
Yeah, Larry King is in the restaurant scene for literally 1 second.
Yeah.
And it's not explained. I have no idea why he's in this movie.
Okay. That makes sense, because I was just, you know, when I do my notes and stuff like that, and it said Larry King as himself, and I go, oh, was there a bit on when he was on TV or something? So no, he was just there.
He's just in the restaurant. Yeah. And the camera, like, it's a setup on him. He's not in the background. It's just literally a setup showing him 1 second. All right, moving on. So weird. Like, this movie has a lot of bizarre cameos.
I'm just wondering, was he in Georgetown? Is he from Georgetown? Like, what's because I get Patrick Ewing is the only connection. I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense to me, but not really at all.
Yeah. And Fabio, I guess I can if you like need someone to play an angel. All right, I suppose.
They really do linger on him, and his like it's just. By the way, this is Fabio. Camera.
As he lifts up like a tub of I can't believe it's not butter. For all my '90s kids out there, he was very popular in those commercials.
He's an actor / model, and not the other way around.
And also, he murders birds with his face. Let's not forget that too. Yeah. That's
a movie it's what put Busch Gardens on the map.
So there are some pretty gruesome murders in this movie, but you don't see any of them.
No, pretty tame.
Yeah, it's all just told to us. It's all sort of like described. In fact, there's almost no gore whatsoever until we get to that very, very final scene. And kind of like what Will's saying, which is why I can kind of understand why the original cut is something of a, just a, oh, okay. Because you're kind of waiting for a something. Like there is one great bit of tension. It's where, actually it's a fantastic shot. It's the bit where he goes into the One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest area. And it's the bit where he walks in and there's this thing.
Oh, on the ceiling.
Old lady crawling on the roof.
Old lady spider crawling.
It's fucking hysterical. I was dying laughing. I was like, I know it's supposed to be this really scary thing, but I was like, it's pretty silly.
But also really good blocking because it's incredible. The same time that he's walking, and there's the thing on the roof, the other old lady that's killed the nurse walks through at the same time. That I was like, there's a few moments where I'm just like, no,
a lot of great blocking. Shots. There's a ton of great shots, and even the opening scene of walking down with the black boy off to the side, and then it continues going, and then he shows up again.
He's there again.
Really cool camera work in this movie. It reminded me, like, it's so funny. It's like a much more tame version of the movie Seven. Like all of these grisly things are happening in Seven. You see the end result for the most part.
I guarantee you. Yeah, I guarantee you, David Fincher loves this movie. Like
this podcast.
Yeah. David, come on. We keep asking you.
And we keep telling you, no, we don't have time this week. No, we're not going to watch The Killer again.
Actually, I was wanting to watch The Killer again. I love that movie. But it does set up a really good sort of bit where we're worried about the kid. So there's this kid that's been kind of like shoehorned into the movie. We're convinced is about to be murdered.
His daughter?
But then we realize, and George C. Scott realizes that the killer's going for his family. And it does set up a pretty cool, like, little car chase, which is clearly a stunt driver dressed as a cop. It's clearly George C. Scott inside the car all the time. And George C. Scott doing some great acting, though, at the same time. Like, come on.
Yeah.
It's like, it's dope.
Very tense scene. Very, very tense.
Very.
Yeah.
And then he sort of runs up into the house. And that's where, like, I want you guys to... It's the bit where it's just there's a shot in this movie.
I know what it is.
Yeah, is it the
the clip? Yeah.
Okay, so one of the old ladies that's possessed has brought along one of those industrial.
Hang on. So the killer has been removing the heads from the bodies, right? So George C. Scott goes to the morgue and interviews the guy, and he's looking at the tools with this comically large, like, hedge trimmers. Specifically made for removing heads.
Yeah. I guess an autopsy surgeon would need that, I don't know. That's sure.
It's comical, to say the least.
Yeah.
It's a weapon Art the Clown wouldn't even use.
It looks like it was made by Acme. Yeah.
It's like spring-loaded the opposite way. You open it up and then you release it and it goes and it chops off a head. And so just as George C. Scott gets there, everything seems chill. Everyone's like, hey, what are you doing waving a gun around? Relax, bro. And then suddenly the possessed lady goes, I wanted you to see this. And she pulls it out and goes to chop off his daughter's head. So I'm guessing they must have just reversed the shot where they get the girl to sort of sit up into it as they're sort of opening it kind of thing. But I just remember bursting out.
It's just the grandmother diving to push the daughter out of the way. That's the silliest fucking thing.
Oh, yeah.
And again, like, not even
grandma. That's right.
Yeah. I thought she was going to take the fish out of the bathtub. I was hoping. Chekhov's fish. Chekhov's fish, man.
And it's kind of weird because as great a relationship that George C. Scott has with this priest that dies, it does seem like his family doesn't really he barely has any relationship with him.
Bizarre, yeah.
The daughter just like a someone that knows a producer or something, because she's
in 3 scenes. Yeah. There's a scene where George C. Scott's like up in the middle of the night, like reading something in the kitchen, and she comes down. She looks possessed. Gets something out of the fridge. Yeah. I'm like, is this another dream sequence? Like, they keep setting a lot of these things up, but it does a really good job at subverting your expectations, I guess. Like,
yeah, because in the end, she's just sleepy and she was just getting a drink from the fridge and gives him a kiss and goes to bed. And I'm like, well, the why?
She keeps mentioning her dance recital or some kind of dance she's got going on, which pops up.
And they're all just like brushing him off the entire time. But no, that moment where she almost gets her head chopped off, that shot does not work. It did make me laugh.
Yeah. It's wild, because then we watch, like, when we get to the third movie, there's some action towards the end that is so absurd, but it's so believable in that context. And this, you're just like, that's ridiculous. You think the reaction time of this old lady diving to like, it's like she dove to push someone out of the way of a bullet. Like, it's the craziest shot.
And the physics doesn't work because she dived towards, then pulled away. You know, it doesn't matter. Yeah. That happens. It's sort of like the
grandma saves the day.
Yep. But it then sets up this sort of the final act, which is kind of like I was saying, it was the studio's sort of decision. We've had a random scene with the white-haired priest who we'd heard about had done an exorcism elsewhere.
Cut to the Vatican, I guess.
Yeah, with a throwaway line. But then as like the situation's kind of like getting out of control with in the house, we suddenly cut to, and it's a great shot of like the door opening, and then it's just the priest, and he's like crazy. He's ready for exorcism time, and he goes and he starts this crazy exorcism.
Here I go exercising again.
The Bible blowing up, and it's dope. I'm not gonna lie, it's dope. And then it's followed immediately on with George C. Scott getting involved, and it becomes a really bonkers scene where, we're getting a lot of physical stuff with people being thrown onto roofs and other ceilings or being thrown onto the wall. The great bit with the lightning striking the ground and opening up to hell.
That was really cool. Really cool.
There's a lot about that scene that I think is actually like really, really cool and like well constructed. And if it was Father Dyer in that, the priest who was his buddy throughout the movie, if it was him in that scene,
really,
it would have been a lot better.
Agreed.
But of course, by that point, that was a tacked on ending, so they had not shot anything for that.
Just think we could have gotten like the Top Gun ending, where after they send the demon back to wherever, they look at each other, he's like, you can be my priest anytime. Like, I mean, and then you have like 10 more fucking sequels of the two of them just fighting demons, man.
Yeah.
Great.
It would have been a lot better the sequels we got. So
missed opportunity.
If you're listening, Keanu, if you're listening, Constantine 2, let's go.
Isn't that still being made?
I hope. I love that movie.
Constantine. Yes.
100%. Yeah, we love Constantine as well. That, like, considering it's like, all right, look, we took him from John Constantine, we made, changed his jacket, made him British.
Oh, who cares?
Exactly. They nailed that movie so much. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, Peter Stormare is just like waiting for that phone call. He's like, yeah, fuck it, let's go. I'm ready.
Yeah, 1,000% down. But yeah, I like I said, it's a better ending than what we got originally. It's still pretty half-baked.
It feels like the ending to a completely different movie,
Yeah, it needed more setup, and I actually want to read the book because I want to see like how does all this play out in the book. I imagine it has the original ending, but
not the actual book. You mean the novelization of the movie Exorcist?
Yes,
based on the book. Exorcist 3. Oh. This is so fucking stupid.
So yeah, it does set up a pretty sort of like very sort of abrupt end. Though I dug it. I mean, like I said, it is very much half baked, but I'm still like, wow, okay, just blow me away. Shoot me now.
It's just the weakest part of the movie, and it's unfortunately the final act of it.
Yeah, but it has enough going on, like visually, and like the concepts about it are really cool. So it has enough going on to where like it doesn't ruin the movie for me. It just doesn't enhance it.
Was there a stinger tease at the end of this, like Samuel Jackson shows up and he's putting together a team or something?
the devil will be back.
And it does have that very last kind of tacked on shot where it's like the priest Karras is sort of buried, but then you see on his tombstone it's kind of like born interred died. So he dies twice on that sort of thing, and then it just goes credits. Movie's over.
Huh.
You know,
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
Did he, when they cut to, because when Georgie Scott's character is having that dream sequence, he talks to the priest in that, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't the priest have, it looks like he had his head removed, like he's got like a huge scar? Or there's
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
like
he's got the Frankenstein stitches. Yeah.
he's got the Beetlejuice neck where Gino is. But like, yeah, but he doesn't have his head cut off, right? Or does
No,
he?
he had it stitched back on in heaven. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
you know.
but yes, no, his head's cut off.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, correct.
Because then, there's that bit
Okay.
where Brad Dourif like talks about how you can drain all the blood by you've got to. That's again.
Yes,
what a
dude. The
great
monologue. I mean,
Dude.
the most engaging shit you'll ever see. Like, it just feels like it's from a completely different movie.
There are
Really good.
two sort of 10-minute monologues from Brad Dourif, where it feels like a stage play, where we're just in this room. It's just two sort of lights. We've got two powerhouse actors just doing some acting.
Yeah.
That I'm like, imagine if the whole movie was like that, it would have been an Oscar winner.
Dude,
You know,
that's-
but
I'm
it's
saying,
like it's just. It's kind of like you've built a Lego set, but you didn't have all the right pieces. So parts of it look accurate, and then you've got the red and the green and stuff over here,
Those
and then you got
the off-brand Legos that don't quite fit.
Yeah.
It's kind
For
of
sure.
like that. That it's like and in sort of there was a movie we were watching the other day, Ryan, where you were kind of like the movie is less than the sum of its parts, even though all the parts are good. I don't understand why it doesn't go together. In this case, this movie is more than the sum of its parts, but in a way that's sort of still kind of like kitschy.
And that was last week, and I don't remember what that movie was.
Yeah, I know, but that's the thing. That's the point. Whereas this movie, like all three of these movies, have honestly been living rent free in my head. I couldn't wait for this episode.
Each one better, like that's the thing is like how can the next movie top the one before? And that's why like we took a gamble on the second movie that we'll talk about in a minute, but like we were talking about maybe doing a group watch of that together. I'm like, I had to kind of take the initiative and watch it, just make sure it was the right choice. And I'm so glad that I did, because it like really outlined the Venn diagram of the three of these movies.
Yeah, let's do it. It's perfect time to do that. So if you haven't seen Exorcist 3, it's available on YouTube for free.
I do want to say, go ahead. Sorry.
As is this movie. As is the movie, a movie I had never heard of. I to the point that how many times did I check with you guys that are you guys? Is this the right? The
Real
one
quick.
with.
Real quick about The Exorcist 3, the last thing I'll say about it is it does have one of the most iconic horror shots ever, where it's the shot down the hallway and you have the
best jump scare.
The night nurse like walking in to check in the rooms, and you see like it's just a static shot, and it does such a great camera work and like building tension where she walks out and then it's the person coming out of nowhere with the thing. It's really cool. Really cool.
It happened so suddenly.
I saw that. I'm like, that's from this movie? Cool. But anyway.
But yeah, the next movie was a complete mystery to me. I had to, like I said, double check that this was the movie we're doing. But it is also quite bonkers. It's the 1981 movie Possession. What I also like about all three of these movies, all of them are written and directed.
Yeah.
So it's like, so we're getting very, very specific visions. And boy, oh boy, does Possession give us a take. Whatever that take is, it is. So it's written and directed by Andrzej Zalowski, he's a Polish sort of director, writer-director. And this movie stars Sam Neill, very, very young.
This is
Sam
like
Neill.
first movie. Like he is a baby in this.
He's basically 12 in this movie.
He looks so young that he looks wrong.
Like, like it's crazy to see. Yeah.
Even I told Mrs. I was like, Mrs. Sam Neill's really, really young, and I'm like, he's getting naked. And she appeared so fast in that.
I mean, he is a smoke show in this movie. It's crazy.
Yeah, man, he's like not a line on his face. But it also stars Isabel Adjani in a just wow. And like, so I've never actually seen anything, I think, with her. I sort of went in sort of looking a bit more about her. She's she won the César 5 times, which is basically like the French Oscar.
Wow.
She's nominated twice for an Academy Award for foreign language movies as well. And man, I mean, is she doing some heavy lifting?
Yeah. I was getting real Monica Bellucci vibes from her watching. Just atypical gorgeous French woman. It's like
right. But with an incredible talent.
Yeah, just unbelievable.
But let me try and set the scene, because this movie, it doesn't ever explain anything.
No, you're thrown right the fuck into it to a point where I'm like, did I miss 20 minutes of the beginning of this movie?
It is a vibes movie that, like, it is shot in West Berlin in 1981. So we're still in the Cold War. There are actual shots where they're shooting across the Berlin Wall and we're looking at East German guards looking back at us. And that's just a real thing going,
yeah,
they're pointing a camera at us. What's going on?
I was like, that's an interesting shot, not realizing like, oh no, this was shot in the past.
Yeah, it actually took me a few moments to like realize like, oh wait, this is the real, because I love the new the Suspiria remake, and it also takes place same place like Berlin, and it very similar shots. So those were obviously recreated, and so I was in that mode where I was like, wow, they did a really good job of recreating. And then thinking about it, I'm like, wait, 81. Oh, this is the actual.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Dude, like I was saying, like all those shots, like on the street, like everything looked so pristine and just clean and stark, and it just added to the atmosphere of this movie, which is unreal.
And let's get into that. So that's kind of where when Ryan was like, okay, Exorcist 3, man, this is a very well shot movie, but I'm like, all right, but we get into possession, and I'll try and explain the setup, because like I said, it doesn't really set anything up. We get an incredible Steadicam shot where we've got Sam Neill sitting in the corner of a room being grilled by four guys, which
my God.
goes all around.
How about that? So
and it never explicitly says it, but even I'm like going,
what the fuck does he do?
Is he like a spy? Is he
right?
Maybe he's a spy, but again, doesn't really matter. It just he comes back from a mission or at work. His wife's upset with him. He's got a young boy, and it's sort of a movie about divorce. But it becomes from that point on so nonsensical, but it makes sense at the same time. I think, Ryan, you were the one that said it best, is I couldn't quite understand what was going because my eyes couldn't make sense.
I was like, I couldn't tell you if this movie was good or not because I was too busy looking at how good it was. Like,
it's an assault on it's beautifully shot.
Each scene, like the flow of this movie from scene to scene, just when you think you have it like clocked and figured out, you fucking don't. And it throws a curveball after curveball after curveball until the very end of this movie when you're sitting in your own filth, like, what the fuck did I just watch? Like, it's wild.
Because I was halfway through it, and Mrs. came back, and it's during the scene, the very, very famous scene in the middle that we'll kind of get to, which is again, I think where a powerhouse performance, but she's just these screams and this writhing and everything, and she's like, "What are you watching?" And all I said was, "I don't know."
Who are you screaming in here? My take was, I started this movie late in the evening, and I was like, I just wanted to check it out. I think I watched the first. It's because it's free on YouTube. I recommend everyone go and watch it. After this, not right now while you're listening to this, that'd be crazy. While you're driving in your car. But I was like, oh, it's like 2 hours and 10 minutes, like just around 2 hours. I'm like, I don't think I can watch this whole thing right now. And like, I checked it at 30 minutes. I'm like, what the fuck am I watching? And I ended up watching the whole thing that night. It was like, nuts.
That's the way, because I've seen the other sort of movies. So the best way to think about this is an art house movie in every way. It's very much a sort of Polish art house movie.
It's what A24 movies want to be, is what I think.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Right. There you go. But the thing is, I couldn't look away.
It's not pretentious.
Yes, that's a great way of putting it, is that whatever they're doing it well.
Mm-hmm.
And
oh no.
On board.
Oh, sorry, you froze
for a second.
Oh, sorry there. I was like, so that was actually my art house.
He's been possessed,
yeah. But I was like saying, whatever choices are being made are being delivered, and the actors as well.
Big fucking swings.
They are just whatever they've been given, whatever direction they're going full tilt boogie. They are, for example, everyone's favorite character, Heinrich.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh
my god!
Going around talking to everybody like this.
It's like a stage play. It really is like
for the people who are listening, we are basically doing Vogue from Madonna. Is this character who is or isn't sleeping with his is or isn't wife, who may or may not also be a clone. Again, guys, it's really
no. That's it. I mean, while he was away, she's unhappy in her marriage. It's kind of the inciting incident to this thing. They have a kid together, strangely just named Bob. Okay.
Yeah,
that was the most.
You ever met a 7-year-old Bob
in Berlin?
That's the most unsettling thing.
In 1981 in Berlin. No. I was like, yeah. But yeah, she's she's dating this other guy, and it becomes this very like, see, when I was watching this, I kept thinking of the title Possession, like, oh, it's not that the woman is possessed, it's she is his possession. Like that was my takeaway from it. I'm shocking, I know, I figured that out. But he suspects her of cheating on him with this other man, and she admits it, and so she just goes off and disappears. Meanwhile, you've got her crazy friend Margie pop up with a broken leg. Like, it's fucking insane. Like, just like I said, just when you think you have this movie figured out, you don't. And just as me trying to complete a thought here, I'm like, oh no, wait, that's not at all what happened in this movie. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so like, yes, they sort of break up. She says, yes, I've been sleeping with someone. Yes, for a long time. Yes, he's better at sex. Then we have like a 5-minute scene where Sam Neill just drinks himself into oblivion for 3 weeks, apparently.
In a hotel.
Then he comes home and he finds his son alone, covered in jam, which apparently is a direct relationship to what actually happened to the director. So his director got divorced during this movie, or just before this movie, came back and found his child kind of like in this situation. So this is like his therapy for divorce in a way. But then like the character Anna is just so strange and unstable and like just unpredictable, and then she starts kind of cutting herself with a knife, and then he's cutting himself, and then he says, I'm taking the baby, while rocking in a chair like a crazy person.
I just want to say the two takeaways from this movie is her scream acting and Sam Neill's chair work in this movie. Anytime he gets into a chair, when he goes to he hires a private investigator. We'll get to that. He's just like spinning around in this fucking chair, or he's like wildly rocking back and forth in this chair. It's insane.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the definition of this movie. It's at all times you feel like you're going crazy. You've got Sam Neill in his at like the same level of In the Mouth of Madness.
Yes.
Yeah. But like it's just, I love a crazy Sam Neill.
Or the scene in Train Spotting when he's recovering from the heroin addiction, he sees like the baby on the ceiling. Like that's this whole movie.
Movie.
Even the toilet scene pops up in this.
So then
Absolutely.
so it trying to even describe the plot,
it's
guys.
impossible.
If you haven't seen this movie, it's there's almost really no point, because it just goes from thing to thing, from moment to moment. But again, in a brilliant way, in a compelling way, in a this is a choice kind of way. Because yes, she kind of vanishes. He's watching the boy. We meet the voguing, the
Heinrich.
German guy that's been banging his wife. That's
lives
just
with his
guy.
mother.
Hey, he's like, we are in a triangle. It's just fun. Let us be having a good time.
The guy also knows like jujitsu or karate or something. Like they get into this insane fight scene.
Yeah,
where he's like dancing and all that.
Yeah. But he walks in, he's like, he's shirtless, and he's like feeling him up, and he's just like, hey man, he's not French. Like it would make more sense if he was an eccentric Frenchman. But no, it's just Heinrich, man. I don't know, like. Your son Bob, he likes me more. It's cool, man.
His shirt literally unbuttoned to like his like crotch. And
like if he was wearing a fucking kimono, like the kimono from the next movie, I'd be like, yes, get this guy in a kimono. I'm Team Heinrich.
Honestly, he is the most normal of all the characters, which should tell you.
Yeah. But then you get to meet Sam Neill's son Bob's teacher, who is the exact same actress. I don't know if it's the same person.
Same actress, different color eyes, different color hair.
Yeah.
And it's like, and because it happens, and I'm like, wait, what?
He never addresses it. Never is.
Well, he does. He goes, don't you? But you look.
He pulls on her hair, and he's like, is this a wig? Yeah. Like, and she's like, what are you talking about? And
they have sex immediately.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. But then he also hires a private investigator to figure out where his wife is going. And
the best private investigator ever.
Oh my God. A private investigator that follows you within 2 feet of you at all times and is the only other person on the street.
And it's shot like the way, like the only sound you hear are 2 sets of footsteps. It's crazy.
He's one like step away from just like shouting like, by the way, I'm following you. Like, he's that obvious.
But then like that whole sequence, because she is, she goes to the subway, she's running through, like, again, it's all beautifully shot. Like all of the set, like where they set this camera up, it's a stunning looking film. And I can't stress that enough. But he's following her comically, like it ramps upward to a point where she's just full sprinting away, and he's running after her, and she runs into this abandoned building. He follows her up. waits. Then he's like, no, it's cool. I'm the building inspector. Like, I got to check all your fucking windows. And then shit gets crazier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Will and I were watching this at the same time. I was about 30-40 minutes behind Will. And then I've also been like, Ryan's only thing was you guys aren't ready for possession. You're like,
yeah.
So when I'm 45 minutes into this art house movie about divorce, kind of going, guys, what's happening? And Will's like, oh no.
Yeah, I'm looking at some shit right now. Let me tell you,
it's happening. And this is audience. Okay, like, again, I don't even know if you can spoil this movie, but this is where the tentacle creatures enter the chat. The sexual tentacle creatures enter the chat, and
why you say that with a tone?
Yeah, but again, worst private investigator ever, who is armed. He has the gun and manages to lose the gun and get shot by Anna through
Doesn't she bonk him like he looks in? No, wait, that's later on.
That's the other guy.
Yeah,
this guy's just freaking out over the sexual thingamabob.
He turns the corner. He comes in, like, the private investigator who's looking for her is now in this apartment. He's checking all the windows, turns the corner into like one dark room, and you see just this thing.
Mass.
Yeah, it's just this bubbling flesh, this Cronenberger, if you will.
Yeah. Just attached to like a bathroom. Like, the fact that his first thought isn't to like, well, I'm going to shoot that and then figure this out later. That would have been my reaction.
Yeah, the whole creature aspect of this thing is so unclear as to what it is, how it functions. Because once he sees it, he's like sucked into it, so to speak. Like, he can't. It's like paralyzed him. And then what was her name in this movie? I can't remember. Anna just pushes him into the mirror and just kills him violently. Oh, she smashes a bottle and kills him that way.
Yeah, stabs him.
Right. Yeah.
That's the other guy. This is what I'm saying, because that's
shit. Right.
That's the lover of the investigator.
It's the it's the guy Sam Neill hired. It's his lover is investigating the thing. Like, he hired his company. It doesn't matter.
It is.
That reveal was pretty wild, though.
So that kind of happens, and then we get to the scene, where, look, again, the whole movie is about being confused anyway. But then we get the scene where Anna recounts a violent miscarriage that she has, which is bizarre. Actually, I was reading that Rosamund Pike actually reenacted that scene for a music video a few years ago, which I'm gonna have to find. But she's in the Berlin subway. It's apparently they shot it at 5 a.m, so it's completely abandoned, and she's just writhing around and screaming. Now, this is the scene my wife came home to, and she's like, "What the hell is going on?" I go, "I honestly don't know."
I can explain.
Yeah, and then
that's for the podcast.
And then she starts having a miscarriage with blood and fluids flowing out of her eyes, her ears, her every orifice, basically. But then she's also explaining like it was her faith leaving, like a part of her was leaving her, and we're like, okay.
Oh yeah, because that whole scene happens as she's describing it to.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's happened previously. But in all cases, she's just behaving so erratically. And then, we get the bit later where the other guy comes to investigate, finds his lover chopped up in the fridge. He then gets murdered. And just like, and this being starts slowly becoming more, I don't know, because it's got a mouth, it's got eyes and stuff.
You don't know.
That.
Yeah. It's I mean, it is, to say the least, it is grotesque. It is like a very much, I don't know who did the creature effects on it, but it's pretty good. Like, man, I was like, this is a good looking creature.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck it is.
It's legit.
Yeah.
And then Sam Neill finds out, and it's again evil Sam Neill. I love it. He calls up Heinrich's mom on the phone. Oh, I'm over everything, and I love everything, and I love you, and I love whatever you're making, and definitely, if Heinrich wants to find her, she's in this building, an abandoned building on Jasserstrasse, level 1.
Yeah, everything's coming up fucking Millhouse in this. He's got Bob. He's got his better version of his wife that's not fucking crazy. Like, it looks exactly like her. Okay, so he's like, oh, this is. Finally, like, I can chill. This is my life. And Heinrich calls. He's like, oh, yeah, you want to find her? This is where she is. Go check it out. Let me know how that goes.
Yeah. So Heinrich goes over, gets himself...
on his motorcycle, yeah.
Yeah, dope.
Heinrich's so cool.
Gets
Full
himself
white suit.
Gets himself stabbed. And then Sam Neill's character goes to help him out and helps him die. But just murders him in the bathroom, drowns him in the toilet, stages it like there's a bunch of drugs on it.
Yeah,
Steals his motorbike. Again, the motivations of characters.
This shot in that where he goes back, Sam Neill then goes down there, finds Heinrich at a bar, which seemingly around the corner. He's like, dude, what's going on, man? You're being hysterical. Drowns him in the toilet, then goes and grabs a feather out of a shoe, puts it in his mouth to throw up. I'm not sure why.
Beautiful shot though.
It up front, yeah, it's crazy. Like all the shots in this, it's so good. It's a movie you can, if you're at a Halloween party, just have this on in the background. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Locks the stall, crawls out over the top. It's no notes.
And
yeah.
So then I think Anna's been home with his son, but Margie's there as well, the friend. We find her with her throat slit. He just takes her body upstairs, decides
in the elevator, right? She's because he brings her back into the apartment, puts her in the bathroom, has sex with his wife again.
But then and then the boy comes in. I'm like, he's heard everything. But then
it's not a big apartment.
No. But then it starts getting strange because then we cut to, again, perfect timing. Mrs. walks into the room and it just suddenly cuts to Anna fucking the tentacle monster. And she's like, almost. And I was like, oh, it always reminded me of the Family Guy, the British porn. Almost.
Yeah.
Almost. There we go.
Yeah.
We've arrived. And it's like, so then, and Mark goes to Heinrich's mother, who lives in a black and white apartment, who then kills herself. And this is where I think I'm now just like, I don't know if I'm freebasing drugs or what, because it's just pure hallucination from this point that the spy people come to try and get Mark back on board. He's hiding his crazy tentacle fucking nutcase of a wife and his son at Heinrich's house. And then the best part of the movie, where he realizes that the forces are closing in. Why these forces are closing in,
unclear.
They are irrelevant. But he sees them and he goes, he's got a gun, gets into the back of a West Berliner cab, and he goes, pulls the gun on him, but barely, and goes, back up and then drive your car as fast as possible into those police cars. And the cab driver goes, you got it.
You got it, boss.
He's been waiting his whole life for this. You don't even put the gun away. No.
He is 30 feet away from the house. He pulls up to the house and there's cops surrounding it. Mm-hmm. And he gets, like you said, it's fucking crazy. He gets in the cab. I don't know who jumps out of the cab because
that cab driver.
That was because they look almost identical in this shot. And then Sam Neill opens fire on the cops. Sam Neill gets shot.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
And then the car that they've stolen goes away again, guys.
But then he gets back on Heinrich's motorcycle, and then oh my god, then he downs
great
that.
shots of him driving through Berlin.
Which was that Sam Neill crashing the motorcycle?
That's what it looked like. I don't know.
I looked close. It was him riding. It wasn't him crashing. There was a very specific cuts of that.
Only William Friedkin can make actors do that.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, listeners, viewers. If this sounds like it's not making sense, it's because this is the movie.
Yeah.
This is how the movie goes down, but you can't look away. And so it sets up a sort of a shootout with Sam Neill dying. Anna turns up because the tentacle being has now become freaky Sam Neill clone with weird eyes.
It's like when we had evil Superman and Superman 3, evil Sam Neill, just way hotter.
Yeah, very sexy Sam Neill. I don't know why he's sexier, but he is.
He's French now. He's ciao.
And then our two lead characters get gunned down by the police. We get a shot of one of the guy's pink socks, which connected to the first scene where did our enemy still have the pink sock?
Yeah.
Never explained.
No, I was like, oh, that's the thing they mentioned 90 minutes ago.
Exactly. Right. 2 hours ago. And then crazy sexy Sam Neill escapes. And then the movie, guys.
But how does he escape? He walks up the stairs and there's a person coming out and he's like, their way out of here, and she just like points up and he's like, give me a lift. And then she gives him a lift. And
another West Berliner just willing to help anyone commit any series of murders. There's blood everywhere. And so Doppelganger leaves. We cut to Doppelganger woman with Bob the child in a really nice apartment.
Yeah.
Doorbell rings. Small child goes, don't answer it, don't answer it, don't answer it. She answers. Child runs upstairs and apparently drowns himself. He just jumps into the bath, face down, and immediately dies. Apparently.
Well,
I've looked it up. He kills himself.
Okay.
But because that's impossible. But then Doppelganger Sam Neill comes in, and then as he comes in, the sound of World War III starts outside, close up on Anna the Doppelganger, end of movie. And at that point, I'm like, there are nowhere near enough drugs.
2 hour standing ovation, me in my living room.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, so I was during this this crazy day of mine, I was on and off texting friend of the pod, Carrie Byron, who's a huge movie nerd. And she's like, she knows all of these movies. And so she was like, oh no, you guys have nailed it. This way. I'm like, but I immediately texted going, I've never been so confused at the end of a movie, I think, in my entire life, to the point of like, but if you ask me, I go, yeah,
it's incredible. Yeah. It's one of those, like, ender, it just,
some wild choices.
It fucking sticks to you. Like, I've been thinking about it now. Granted, all these movies I went The Exorcist 3. I was like, wow, this is fantastic. Then watching Possession, I'm like, this movie is melted my brain. And then watching the third movie, like, well, my brain is reformed, ready to ruin it again.
Yeah. Well, right. And like, and we're gonna look, and I think it's just time to jump over to it, because
I was just gonna say, this is just realizing this now is like, this is 3 movies that we picked with the most insane third acts we could have possibly done.
Just and my only question after Possession was, what was the grocery budget on this movie? Because Anna has so many groceries throughout the entire movie.
She's French. She's got baguettes on baguettes on baguettes.
She just throughout the entire movie is coming in like 2-3 bags of heavy groceries every time.
Full bag of milk just smashed.
Yeah. Oh. And what does she do for a living? How does it? East Berlin was a crazy place.
You did bring up a good point of her, like, having that flashback scene in the subway, just her writhing around. My first thought was like, if this was in New York and the subway was packed, no one would stop to bat a fucking eyelash. But I liked your idea that someone's like trying to like maneuver around there.
Just can I get past
you again?
Okay. You're leaking, but I'm just gonna get past.
Ma'am, come get your milk.
Yeah.
Great. A lot of great takeaways from this movie, though. I really enjoyed it. I recommend everyone watch this fucking movie. It's nuts.
Well, I think, again, Ryan, you said an incredible movie that I'm never gonna watch again.
Yeah, no, I know, even like a group watch, I don't want to experience this one again.
No. I don't even think you can watch this with people. I think this is a movie to watch by yourself. It's a journey for sure.
Watch it by yourself in the fluids that are leaking out of all your orifices.
There's no. I could, again, conceivably talk about this movie for hours, but it is so bizarre. It's whatever it's going for, it's going balls to the wall. It is just committing, and that's what I was saying is like, and even the people involved in the movie, like Sam Neill says, it was one of the craziest experience he's ever had. Isabella Adjani said it took her years to get past it, and even the director is like, this is only a movie you can make when you're young and you're going through a divorce and things are strange and dark and stuff like that. Because I can understand why, as actors, they were like, we were just, whatever we were doing, we were in like, they were on ayahuasca or some shit.
I'd probably skip the premiere on this one.
Yeah.
I don't need to relive this again.
But it's.
But again, you can see a lot of these.
Talking about the staging, the cinematography, the lighting, the Steadicam, the blocking, it's 5-star. It doesn't make any motherfucking sense.
You can see the influence this movie would have on future filmmakers. The stylistic choices, like almost Kubrickian in a way. Like, it's got that, just this insane level of polish. phenomenal camera work and blocking and movements. Like it's just it flows. It's like it moves to the beat of jazz, I jokingly said.
Yeah.
But it feels very much like a stage play too. Like it's like the dialogue scenes between the characters, the way those are shot and set up. Towards the end, when she's like, she has this moment and the camera, it like cuts back to the apartment and it's just trashed.
Yeah.
Like it was perfectly fine. Like some really, really cool stuff going on here.
But once I texted Carrie about this, she got very excited about the movie that we were going to do last. It's a movie that it's still out, ladies and gentlemen. Now, by the time this podcast lands, it's going to be only a couple of days that it will be available on streaming. Yeah. But I would say go see it if you can.
I'll go to this. Go see this in the pack theater if you can, for sure.
And I am going to say this now. Okay, we're about to talk The Substance. Okay. I'm saying it now. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. Okay, there's no way we can talk about this movie without getting into spoilers. So if you want to see The Substance, now's the time to pause and go and see this movie. It's maybe the best movie I've seen in living, like just in recent times. It's stunning. It's beautiful. Which one of you? Yeah, you guys are like Ryan. You.
I've been obsessed with this movie. I saw it opening night. It was like a Thursday night. Sadly, like no one knew what the fuck this was, so it was like 3 other people in my theater. So I didn't get the opportunity to experience the final act of this movie in a packed house as much as I would have. But man, this movie from the opening scene to the very end, like I was fucking on board. Loved it.
It is maybe the most beautiful. It's stunning.
Yeah.
From the very first shot of an egg. It's just so. The Substance is written and directed by Coralie Fargeat or
Fargeat.
Fargeat. All right.
Yeah.
So, and Ryan, you have seen her other movie, right? Was it Revenge?
Yes. So I remember seeing the trailer for The Substance, and I was like, "Damn, this is like unlike anything I've ever seen." And I was like, "Who's this director?" Because of course I do like an IMDb deep dive. I'm like, she only made like one other feature film. It's called Revenge. It came out in 2017. I was like, I'll check this out. And I watched that movie alone. And I was like, I was absolutely blown away by like this like freshman it's insane. If you like The Substance, I definitely recommend going to see Revenge. Love that movie. So then I went to go see this and I was like, Jesus fuck Christ, it's insane.
And it has been like consuming you. So like, you know, if
and not just me.
No, but like you are, since you haven't stopped talking about it. You immediately did a poster redesign that then ended up getting sort of retweeted by the director. Then you got like a gajillion likes on an Instagram.
Yeah, someone else posted it. Yeah, it's crazy. I have to recommend artists on Etsy take my artwork down from their shop because they're using it, which is annoying, but. Yeah,
it's ironic.
It's cool. Yeah.
It's come full circle that you've designed something that now people are ripping off.
But my biggest fear. Yeah.
The Substance, and again, this is your very last warning. Okay, we're going to get into spoilers. Now, The Substance stars Demi Moore, crushing it. Crushing it. Margaret Qualley. Is it Qualley? Qualley. The thing is, right, I was like, why do I know her? Because everyone's always talking about her. As you guys said, no, you know her from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I knew her from The Leftovers. She was the daughter in Leftovers.
But it also turns out Andie MacDowell's daughter, who actually starred in St. Elmo's Fire with Demi Moore, who also briefly dated Dennis Quaid, who is also in this movie. So there's a lot of like random little...
6 degrees of Margaret Qualley? Okay.
Yeah. But... it tells the story of, now Demi Moore is 61 and absolutely flawless, but tells the story of an aging movie star or some sort of star, and it's never really got into it, right? Who's 50, she's turning 50, she does like a very 80s aerobics show. And essentially it's very much about, you know, the way the industry treats women of a certain age. Dennis Quaid is very much out of character as a complete douchebag. Like
playing Harvey.
It was originally going to be Ray Liotta. Unfortunately, we lost Ray Liotta. And I'm not going to lie that Dennis Quaid, irrelevant of who he is, he actually does great in this movie.
He's so good in this movie that I had a really hard time picturing Ray Liotta because we had just seen Ray Liotta in Observe and Report.
Yeah.
And I had a hard time seeing like I can picture it, but I think Dennis Quaid kind of nails really some of the unhinged mannerisms really well in this.
He's got just a little bit of that right mix of like douchebaggery that like Ray Liotta. It's like, well, Ray Liotta could play bad guys.
Ray Liotta's just more scary. Like I could think he could nail the scare.
He can be scary, but you always kind of like him. Like Ray Liotta is just one of those guys where it's like you just always know no matter what. It's like, but that's Ray Liotta. I like that dude.
He's a bit. He got a sort of manic quality, but every single shot in this movie, you could pause this movie and you could print it and frame it. Yeah. There's at no point is it not iconic. The colors, the color palette is so bright. It's so fantastic. And so essentially is that right at the beginning of the movie, she goes to the wrong, has to use the wrong restroom, overhears Dennis Quaid just
Harvey.
laying into her as just old and over the hill. And then they cut to dinner, and like we were talking about this afterwards, the sound design of this movie is iconic.
It's so squelchy.
He's eating prawns. He's eating, and like every squelch.
And the camera switches from like this fisheye lens where he's like right up against the frame, and then it cuts to Demi Moore, who's smaller in the frame, and just the close-ups of him eating the prawns, and just even when he's in the urinal, like face to face on his phone, you're just like right there, and it makes you feel so fucking gross and so uncomfortable. Ugh, love it.
I couldn't get enough of it.
Yeah,
but she's in. All right, and then there's that very sudden moment that I won't spoil, but she ends up in hospital, and she's being treated by this bizarrely attractive dude, who's like, "You're perfect."
Oh, the younger nurse behind the doctor who's like, "Hey, my wife's a big fan of yours. Anyway, happy birthday!" And he just fucking leaves.
She starts crying. Yeah. But the bizarrely young looking guy. Who's just so pretty, and he basically hands her this sort of like
it changed my life. Yeah,
it changed my life. So she goes back, she puts it in. It's a very, very quick commercial that doesn't really explain anything. And the thing is, whatever like stuff you get into about the plot holes in this movie is more like, who cares? Just fuck up.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. But like it talks about this thing called the substance that means that you can sort of like discover your younger self, or
have you ever dreamed of a better version of yourself, is like the premise.
And so again, never gets into how much this cost or who pays or whatever. She calls this random number, gets sent to the murderiest part of LA, and
right outside my house.
And finds this box that we were talking to Ryan about. So we've talked about Ryan he's a designer, graphic designer. This is what he does.
My design boner was fucking...
Dude, the unboxing of this product and the fonts and everything that I was like, oh my God, this is like porn for Ryan.
I was like watching this theater, I'm like, oh my God, the typography. We did mention too, we were talking about this like, it looked like this movie was shot like guerrilla style in LA. None of it was shot in LA. It was all shot in France.
Oh,
really?
I think it was all shot in Cannes. Yeah.
Wow.
I just watched a short behind on YouTube about the cinematographer, like how he shot most of this. I was like, that's really interesting because we were talking about that.
Yeah. Because outside it's like when they're like on the street, it's a lot of like really close over the shoulder. You're not really getting a lot of that. So I speculated that they were doing some guerrilla shooting because people do that here all the time. But no, that's interesting then. That's also probably
guerrilla shooting.
They're like, this is not LA at all. We can't give
it's all shot in Berlin.
That was the Berlin Wall again. So we get back, she opens this box and it's got very simple instructions. There's like an activator. Then it's like, all right.
So simple.
Stage 2 is like food. Stage 3, and then it's simple instructions. 7 days on, 7 days off. Remember, you are one. And again, we're still like going, what? And then it's sort of like, and that's kind of like with this entire movie is a fearless performance for both of our leads, but very much so like that we then cut to the bathroom that Ryan is currently in, and just 61-year-old, completely stunning, flawless, completely nude Demi Moore. And this is what I kind of like, I think it was Will that sort of said it afterwards, like, this is a movie that if it was directed by a man, there'd be a lot of people like going, this is sort of like exploitative. But the thing is, it's inside the mind of women. It's written and directed by a woman. It's very, very much about, just the sort of the pressure that It's the world puts on women, especially when they're in the entertainment industry. So there she is. I mean, literally not a
she's
clothing.
looking at all of her perceived imperfections. Like she's standing there, like she notices, she has her like birthmark, which comes up, like just glazing over herself and noticing all of her perceived problems. And she's like, am I, right before she's about to inject the activator, which is what a great name
the
for it.
best looking 61-year-old woman I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. But we're like having to believe, also playing a 50-year-old.
It's crazy. Yeah.
So she takes this activator. And the movie goes fucking insane. There is a shot of an eye that suddenly has two eyes, and I was like, that's where I started squealing. That's when I started making noise during this movie. And then, again, spoilers, but basically Demi Moore's back splits open and 20-something-year-old Margaret Qualley comes out, and that's where time stops. And the movie from that point on.
You also get like this 2000, like it's a very homage-y. Everyone who's seen this movie, it's like very David Lynch or David Cronenberg or even Stanley, the like iconography from Stanley Kubrick. You can't fucking miss it. But the shot of, you get the 2001 Space Odyssey, like the lights flashing of them kind of separating, so to speak. But the splitting of the iris, that shot is so fucking wild.
Yeah.
And then you get the camera shot from like the POV, but it's tied, like locked to her iris, reflected, is fucking, it's
a brilliant shot.
Really well done.
She's looking at herself in the mirror, but we're hearing it as if we're inside her head.
Yeah.
But we're looking at her in the mirror, and it's the kind of thing that the average moviegoer is just gonna be watching it, and you're like, no, that is a really complicated shot.
It's insane. Yeah. Because then the camera like pans back to reveal her from behind, where she's like, like looking at herself. It's incredible. So
another completely fearless performance. She herself as well. Again, completely nude. Also, I didn't understand this because Demi Moore, as we do know, she did get breast augmentation many years ago. But apparently Margaret Qualley's breasts are prosthetic.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I'm like, well, that was a flawless, like whoever did the makeup on that, just incredible. Like never would have known.
Yeah. Well, she did a really great interview. I think it was for Vogue or something, where she's talking about that. She's like, breasts that perfect don't exist. They had to like put them on me. But it's almost like in this cartoony kind of like the like, because it's Coralie Farjat who loves butts, like every shot of like the butt.
If you love butts, this is the movie for you.
Yeah,
that is word for word what Carrie Byron texted me. It's like if you like butts, this movie is basically brought to you by beautiful asses from the moment it starts. But again, that's kind of the point.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's all
Sir Mix-a-Lot actually died like watching this movie. He loved it so much.
But it's like, but it is because it's all about like sexualization and the idea that sex sells, and the idea of beauty, and the idea of exploitative beauty, and everything else in between. But like whatever, this is when, like I said, the movie just goes off to the races from this point. Demi Moore's back has split open. Another girl, a younger version of herself, has come out. She then stitches her together with a fucking shoelace. Like it was the thickest thing I've ever seen. And you're just kind of just along for the ride. Because I was having questions. I was telling you guys, I was like, so to begin with, I'm like, does she have her memories, or is she a new person? Or are they sharing memories? And it's always told, no, remember you are one. Remember you are one. But the way it works is you get 7 days on, 7 days off. 7 days young.
No
girl.
Exceptions.
That's it. No exceptions.
That's stressed a lot.
Yeah. So, and she calls herself Sue. Okay, so Sue is the character. She gets 7 days on, and then we've got to go back, and then we get Demi Moore's character, Elizabeth. Elizabeth Sparkle.
Lizzie Sparkle.
So
which is her birth name, by the way.
Yeah.
Because she meets, after the accident, she meets this guy. This is important because it comes up. Like, she meets a guy who recognized her from school. This like schlubby, nerdy guy who's like, "Oh my God, Lizzie Sparkle! I'm such a huge fan. She's like obsessing on how gorgeous she looks, and she gives her his phone number, and then this is prior to her deciding she's like to take the substance. Now,
So then, so Sue goes into casting. that we'd seen on a newspaper. We did talk about this. We were unclear about time in this, because it's like some stuff's old school, some stuff's new. Again, doesn't matter. It's a vibes thing. But Sue goes to the same place that Dennis Quaid gets hired to replace Elizabeth. So then and then after 7 days, Elizabeth wakes up, she's been fired. And then she just takes a week off and just watches TV and eats food. And then Sue comes back in and for a little while, there's a bit of balance. And then it just, as Sue becomes just so popular and more popular and everybody loves her, and she makes the mistake of, all right, well, look,
I need more time.
One more day. Just one more day. So she takes a little bit of juice out.
It wasn't even a day. I think it was just a few more hours.
Yeah, she takes some juice out of Demi Moore's back. Again, watch the movie.
The stabilizer. So she has to pull drain spinal fluid out once every day to stabilize herself.
If she doesn't, she starts breaking down and bleeding and stuff like that. And then we got the reveal, that amazing shot where where you realize shit's gonna get bad. So it essentially is like Demi Moore was just she's doing something against the window with her hand.
There's a post-it note. The guy that Sue was sleeping with the night before, this biker guy, you get that fucking insane shot where he's like pulling her jumpsuit, the zipper from jumpsuit down, and all of the stuff comes out of the back of it. And then she wakes up this jarring thing. And then Demi Moore, wakes up, sees the mess that Sue has left. It's this duality, this is the turning point in the film, and she notices the post-it note and she goes to grab it and notices that's when you get the sting and you see this dead finger and you're like, oh no.
It's crazy. The finger is
it's like a Tim Burton finger. It's nuts.
Yeah. And then we get a scene where she has, remember the scene where there's the other guy who's the older version of the young
that comes up later. She calls the substance hotline. She's like, oh, there's been a misuse of the substance, and this poor guy who's got to field these phone calls all day, he's like, this fucking bitch again. He's like, hey, it's 503. Oh, fucking 503. Here we go. What now, ma'am?
By the end of the movie, she's like, it's 503.
Yeah, we know. All right.
There's been a gross misuse of the substance. He's like, what has been done cannot be undone. It's again, you're learning all of the rules of this, and she's basically fucked. And he's like, you got to take better care of yourself. There is no she, it's only you. You are one. And she's like, all right, so I guess I'll go get a cup of coffee. And
we did skip over one thing, which I was again when I was texting, and I said the sexiest thing about Sue, again, who's objectively just stunning and has been naked throughout the movie, and I'm like, her carpentry skills. Because she creates a hidden room in that bathroom that Ryan is sitting in. Impeccable carpentry.
In 7 days, mind you.
Yeah, give me a DIY show with her, man. Because
you get that cool scene where she's jackhammering in this room, and then you get the nosy neighbor who's angrily bangs on the door, and she opens it up, and it's a fucking Diet Pepsi commercial. She's just absolutely stunning, and the guy's forgets his name. It's just
it's Oliver, shit. By the way.
Oh shit, that won't come up.
My only criticism of that whole scene is I would not have used my 7 hot days to build the car. I would have done that as the older person.
The substance chamber, but that's just that. Elizabeth isn't thinking like that. Sue is this is my place. I got to get this fucking corpse out of here. I'm trying to get my fuck on.
And which she is, but and that's it. Just starts pushing it further and further, because when she first gets hired as Sue, she does say every 7 days I can only work 1 week on, 1 week off.
I have to take care of my sick mother. Yeah.
And but her popularity goes, again, it's never really explained. We did talk about this, but it's her aerobic show blows up to the point that she's now on evening shows.
It's the hottest show on the planet.
And
it's insane.
And she's hired for she's going to do the live New Year's Eve show, which we will get to. But it's just that little bit, that little finger, and then we get a bit where she's done it again. She starts taking liberties. Sue's getting too much success, and she starts taking the piss. Then we get a very messed up Demi Moore, half messed up.
Well, before that, you mentioned, Demi Moore, you're skipping a lot here. She goes to she has to go pick up her substance refill, which she has to do every 7 days. Like you have to refill this food matrix and things like that. So she goes to this little cafe that's right around the corner from the mysterious alley where she picks up her substance goo, and sees a gentleman across, this older man, looking at her, and she notices the birthmark that he has. It's the same birthmark from the nurse in the beginning of the film. And the guy's like, she's like, it's eating away at you. Like she's like, he's been doing this for so long. And he's like, every week it's harder and harder. You become less of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just this realization where she's just like, fuck, I got to get out of here. And it's wild.
Well,
Then
it's Elizabeth is, the thing about it is that she's done this, but then she kind of is living as almost a hermit.
Yeah, she has no life. Like she's doing this
done
for
it and
Sue.
made her life worse. She doesn't leave home. She's cooking and she's watching TV, and it's like it's sort of self-loathing and binge eating.
And Sue sees that when Sue like jacks back in and like comes out and just sees like the indentation in the chair, the TV's on, the remote's there. She's like, oh, this, all she fucking does is sit around while I'm working my ass off, literally, to to sustain this. It's wild. But
so yeah, that's kind of when like Sue decides that I'm going to start sort of stockpiling. That I'm going to start sort of like
hold on, even before that, I'm so sorry. The best the best, like the most incredible scene in this movie, is after the whole finger incident. Elizabeth like freaks out. She's at her like lowest point, and she digs through her old shit, and she just pulls out boxes. Just says old Elizabeth stuff. Like she finds the phone number of the guy, calls him to set up this date, and it's like this really beautiful thing where she's getting ready, and it's the most fucked up thing. Even when I was seeing this in the theater, I kept going like, no, stop, no, what are you doing? Stop. Where she's like getting ready, and she's again noticing every imperfection in herself, and she like looks over and sees Sue in the crawl space, like noticing how gorgeous she is, and she's like, well, this isn't good enough. She keeps reapplying her makeup. She goes to leave, she grabs the doorknob, she goes back, and it becomes this
changes her outfit, looks at her breasts, she like starts
everything,
and she finally has that meltdown, and it's so. You were kind of saying, I mean, it's a very real moment for a lot of people, but like, a lot of women as well. It's just she's just so on herself, and I'm there going, what are you doing? You're flawless. What are you doing?
You should just smile more.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's again.
That's what we want.
All right. We'll get there. We'll get to that part.
but yeah, that was a really heartbreaking scene.
That was wild. Like that should be Oscar worthy unto itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and it's also kind of explained to around this time that you can stop it. You can reconstitute, but you can't go back. So you're still going to have your fucked up finger, or you're still going to have your fucked up this or that. And
you can stop it. Yeah, he's right. You can terminate the program at any time. Yeah.
But she actively chooses not to.
And I'm unclear why. Like that is one thing, because while they do like what exactly are they sharing? If it's just like the money and stuff, like utilizing Sue as like the career aspect of this relationship, it seems so unbalanced,
True.
Mm-hmm.
I just love the fact that the movie goes, who gives a shit?
Okay. Yeah.
The thing is, the movie's like, whatever. Who cares?
Yeah, because we even had the same question. They posit like you are one, but it's never explicitly stated like what if they share memories, like you were saying, or really what.
Who's
but
making the money? What's going on?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's more just about it's a satire, right? It's just exploring the idea of beauty and aging and everything.
Yeah.
Because you think about it afterwards. You're not really thinking about it during the movie because you're just kind of along for this ride.
Mm-hmm.
But it's around this time that Sue kind of takes the choice away from Elizabeth.
What's one more day? I'll be back.
Like, I've got to do Vogue next week.
Yeah.
And it's like, and you just see the shot of all the activated things filling up around
it's
her.
a very like Requiem for a Dreamy kind of montage where it's bad thing after bad thing. And you know that the reveal that you're going to get is going to be so horrific that it gets to a point where like I think it's 3 months now where Sue has been on, and you're like, Jesus Christ, if the finger was just after like a couple of hours, what the fuck is this thing gonna look like?
Yeah, so it suddenly says 3 months later, and you have that, your blood runs cold. You're like, oh shit. And that's kind of like, we're so close to this live live
Mm-hmm.
New Year's Eve thing. And so I think this is the part, right, where Sue tries to get some stabilizer fluid, but there's none left.
Yeah.
She's basically like drained Demi Moore.
Yeah.
She calls the number and they're like, look, the only way you can get it is by switching back. So she's so close, but I've got the thing, I've got to, but she switches back with Demi Moore's character, Elizabeth, and that's when we get Demi Moore. I mean, I think
hotter than ever.
Yeah, well, she's gonna win. Just so she deserves to win. But like,
yeah,
you take Demi Moore, and she is now Smeagol
She's
the guy from RoboCop that's been like
she's slash the old man from the Six Flags commercials. Yes,
right.
Yes.
I've been seeing that. She's a deformed Smeagol like hunchback of like a woman.
She looks like 100. She looks like oh my god, who's Billy Crystal's character from fucking The Princess Bride?
Oh yeah, let's storm in the castle. Yeah,
just like this husk of like, and the prosthetics work. It's so like everything about this movie is so gonzo and over the top that you just know that whatever the reveal was going to be is just going to be this very crude and just gnarly thing. And man, they fucking nailed it.
This was the moment where I glanced at my watch and I was like, wait a minute.
Only 10 minutes into this movie.
No, there was still nearly 35 to go.
Yeah, it's a long. It's like 2 hours 20 minutes.
2:20,
right? 2:20.
And that's when I was like, I couldn't. How? What do you mean? Because we must.
Where can this go? Where can this go?
We must be approaching the end game because at this point, then Elizabeth is like, obviously, she's a little pissed.
Yeah.
So
she calls 503. She's like, it's 503. He's like, yeah, I know. I just talked to you.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, well, look, you can stop here. You just have to put the, just hit her with the murder juice.
Yeah. Now she's like, I want to terminate, right? Or
yeah. So she drags the Sue into the room. She hits her with the murder juice, and then is instantly regretful of what she's done. What does she then do after that? Because the guy.
There's a scene where Sue is being interviewed on, like, she's seeing the talk show where Sue is being interviewed, and she's like, fuck you, I'm gonna start cook, because there's a really graphic scene where while Elizabeth is active, she's just eating and like just filling up with garbage and like not treating herself well.
Yeah.
And then the ramifications of that are once she switches to Sue, who's doing the live thing, the fucking chicken bone, like the turkey drumstick, like she pops down and it's like there's, oh my god, that is fucking wild when she pulls that.
Yeah, and she starts digging around in her stomach. Yeah, there's almost too much to get to.
But you get this like really gross scene of Elizabeth cooking this like foie gras, this disgusting stuff, and it's so putrid, and it's like a Nickelodeon.
Yeah, it's before she gets to deciding to murder Sue. She's angrily cooking all of this. Because we finally open the gift that they got after all those years working on the show from Dennis Quaid is a French cookbook, and so she's just cooking this crazy gross foods, and it's a hilarious scene in a way. It's just comical, and that's what I mean. Demi Moore is eating it up. She's having a ball as she's got like half
old makeup on and the hair, and she's beating the eggs, and the eggs are just flying. It's so so gooey. There's so many fluids flying around. It's squelchy and gross.
It's only slightly less sexy than the tentacle monster.
Yeah.
But then, all right. So then it gets to, because I need to get to where it goes, because she decides to terminate Sue, but she kind of gives up right at the end. She doesn't put all of the serum in. She has a moment of regret. She resuscitates Sue. They're both suddenly awake at the same time. Mm-hmm. And then we get an absolutely bonkers fight.
Yeah, they're looking at each other. Sue notices like the syringe, the giant syringe just says termination on it. Yeah. She's like, well, hey, wait, what's going on here? The most insane fight scene that's like, I can't even describe it. It's like an Expendables level.
Face smashing to the level of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's like, she's almost like she's super strength because she kicks her across the room kind of stuff. And you're watching this and you're just going, wow.
Now, Elizabeth now has the physique of a 98-year-old woman who is like from the top ropes flying through his house. Like it's so comical. Like it's like a Power Rangers fight. It's so wild and so silly. I was dying laughing in the theater.
Yeah.
Like this movie is funny. Like
it's so funny.
Yeah. It's not scary ever. It's just a bit of a mind fuck. But then she kills Elizabeth, doesn't she? Right?
She kicks the shit out of her. She smashes her face, then drags her into the living room. Does a Spartan kick her across the room, then kicks the shit out of her, and she dies. And then she's like, "Oh no, I needed you."
Oh wait.
Oh shit! Like, what have I done?
So then,
I got to get ready for this New Year's thing. Here I go.
Yes, that's where. Okay, so then that's right. And then Elizabeth goes to this live show, and then
which is like 3 blocks away from her house,
apparently. But she starts rapidly deteriorating. Like her ear falls off.
Like Jeff Goldblum in The Fly type shit.
Yeah, her teeth fall out.
And so you're sitting there going, "Oh my goodness, what's gonna happen? Where are we going?" Because the great thing is the movie starts and it goes Elizabeth in that great typeface, and we get Elizabeth's story. And then Sue gets created, and we see Sue. I didn't see this coming, and not even in my wildest dreams did I see this coming, because Sue, as she's starting to fall apart, she sort of runs away from the studio. Fortunately, again, it's only 3 blocks away. She's still wearing this incredible dress. Oh my god!
I mean, her teeth are falling out. She runs before she leaves.
Yes, she's pulling her teeth out.
She pulls like Charlie and Always Sunny. He's like, "Dude, stop pulling your teeth out."
Is it supposed to be this?
Then she bumps into Harvey, and he's with all of the fucking rich white producers, executives, whatever, and he's like, "What's going on with you?" He's like, "You look so pretty. Pretty girls should always smile," and just this menacing thing. And she just has this look on her face that's like how your email finds me face. It's just like,
And then, just as you're worried, like a bunch of topless, half-naked women with their butts hanging out run past, and all of the men are just distracted and go chasing after them. Like literally, the guys
skipping. They're skipping away. I was dying.
The hyper reality of this, because then she gets into the elevator and has a full conversation with a guy who's just like,
I can't hear anything because her ear's falling off.
Yes, she's literally falling apart. It's a race against time to get more goo. And what does she do? She goes back to her apartment, casually runs back to her apartment. You can the sight of her running down the like the studio lot, and her vision is starting to go. That was like, you know, it's a race against the clock, and she gets the last bit of the activator, which you're supposed to dispose of. And it's not even that like green. It's not even that like neon green color anymore. It's this like, this like sulfur yellow. It's gross.
Yeah.
Re-injects the activator. She's like, please give me a better version of myself. And part of me thought was like, I bet a man's gonna come out. Just kidding. You know it's not gonna be great. My first thought was like, is it gonna be like a baby? Like, what's gonna be a younger, like, how is this gonna work?
And then you know it's gonna be bad when we get a recreation of the shot where the eye splits into 2, but it splits into, I don't even want to guess how fucking many. And then I cannot remember what they called it. Can anyone remember what they
Monstro Ilisasu.
Yeah. Monstro Ilisasu. Guys, if you, like I said, I don't know how to describe it, but it was
sexy.
It's
sexy.
It's Sloth from the Goonies, but with bitter tits.
But it's like something.
Yes. Except those tits are all over the place.
Yeah, and there's also multiple sloth heads. But the thing is like, if you've ever seen Dead Alive, Peter Jackson, you go back, you know, like it's just the absolute pure insanity. This is where this movie and you get, guys, remember the scene where, so like audience, this is a person with multiple heads. She's like looks like she's sort of crawled out of like, you know, again, the RoboCop. Multiplied by 10.
If you've ever seen the Rick and Morty, like the Cronenberg episode, that's what it is. Just a mash of teeth and human flesh.
And just random arms and just there's teeth on shoulders and there's breasts everywhere. But like it's hot. And she's like looking and she puts on the dress and then she goes and cuts out Demi Moore's face from a poster and starts putting lipstick on.
She puts the earring on. Like it's this, you like, once you get to the point in this movie, you really, I think the whole movie has this like really ascension of like hyper reality, right? Like it's got this hyper vision of LA. It's got this hyper vision of, you know, all of these elements that it's this just heightened reality. And I think you get to this point and you're just like, yeah, I'm on board. She puts the dress back on, she puts the earring somewhere. She curls the one bit of hair that she has, like in her mind, like she's finally like happy with herself in this moment. And she's like, fuck, I'm gonna do this show.
The show must go on.
Yes.
And then she
cuts the face out from the giant portrait.
Oh, and puts the makeup on. And
she glues it to her face.
At this point,
I was dying.
It's so weird.
And then she goes back, and you just know, like, I knew at this point, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great because no one's even gonna fucking acknowledge what they're seeing.
Right?
They're just like, oh, you're back. We've missed you. And sure enough, like, she's walking down the thing, which is not real. It's great.
Yeah.
She ends up on stage. It goes live. It's just a bunch of asses and tits. Like I said, it's all these.
It's the most insane show. There's children in the audience.
Cuts to a child in the audience. Exactly.
Wearing the same dress, like the Cinderella blue dress, right?
And everyone's so excited. They're all waiting for this beautiful young starlet. She comes out and just the light turns on. And there she is, this gelatinous blob in this dress with the Demi Moore sort of head on. And it's just, and then also Demi Moore's head is on the back in a permanent scream. Stuck. So the body horror of it and the design of it is just absolutely unmatched. And then it all goes wrong because the mask falls off. Suddenly the crowd's like, boo.
But after a few beats, like that comes off, and then people are just like, hang on. That's not Sue.
The fact that people aren't screaming in terror.
It becomes a fucking like insane cartoon. Like it's the only way to describe it. You know, it's so silly and over the top. I was dying laughing. Yeah. It's Carrie. Like the guy walks up, he has a shovel, he bashes her fucking head off, and it explodes everywhere. Knocks her arm off, and it's like in the Addams Family Values where they're spraying blood. Like it's crazy.
A blood cannon all over the audience.
It's fantastic.
Great.
There's 400 people in the audience. Everybody it's like something from The Boys multiplied by 1,000. Everyone's covered in blood. I mean, remember the part as well where she pauses and she excretes a breast onto the ground?
How could I forget?
What is happening?
Notes. Yeah,
I'm like, you're reading the script of this, you're going, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to do what?
Just to again, this is her second film. And I should say, like Revenge, her first film, while it does have a lot of these key things like the sound design, the shot design, like the soundtrack, like the aesthetic is all there, but it's a very, very different movie. But still some great butt shots.
Yeah, but we were also saying there was kind of like Edgar Wrightian match cuts and stuff like that.
Yeah, the editing was fantastic. Like this movie should win it. I hope this movie is nominated and wins a ton of awards.
It should because it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
But I didn't see the ending coming. And I don't mean by the craziness with this monster, but the movie starts with the creation of Elizabeth Sparkle's Hollywood Walk of Fame star. And it's a great way of showing she was adored. And then we get this fantastic shot from the top where time passes, where just time goes on and on and on. The star starts to crack, and you get conversations from people going, "Who was that? She was in whatever." You know, like people just dropping stuff on it and things like that. Well, at this point, the mutant blob sort of runs out, collapses, and just explodes into pieces. But that is where we get the final part of the movie where the Demi Moore head, with a bunch of little mini tentacles, crawls itself away. And once the shot happened, I go, oh no, how did I not see this? And she crawls her way onto her star, and she just like staring up at the sky, and then just sort of like just oozes into a pool of blood of nothingness that then just gets cleaned up. Credits. And I'm like, I think it's
2 hour 20 minutes standing ovation.
Well, apparently it got like one of the longest standing ovations in the history of ever.
The movie opens with won the best screenplay at Cannes, right?
It's but I'm not surprised. I mean, it's a fucking masterpiece, this movie.
I think like just watching this, I think it's going to be like, I think it'll be a modern classic. Like people will be talking about this movie for years to come. I think.
Yeah,
I agree.
I will at least.
Stop
I'll like.
talking about it.
I will at least. Yeah.
I've been talking to everybody I know about it since it came out.
Conversely, like with Possession, Exorcist 3, I'm like, yeah, I probably won't watch those movies again or show them to people. But this movie, I'm like, oh, you haven't seen The Substance? I'm throwing that on.
Yeah.
Because it's so like, even rewatching it, I can't wait to rewatch this many, many times.
Because we were asking a lot of it, because we've been talking about it with our other like chat group with our friends from Right This Minute and stuff,
Yeah.
and people like it's movie, it's movie, and
yeah.
I was kind of like reading because it was a working title, and Universal was going to distribute, and they were worried about it, and they stepped away, and Mubi swept in and bought the rights right before the premiere in Cannes, and I'm like, Universal, what a fuck up.
Yeah.
Whoever was responsible at Universal for saying, guys, I don't think we should do this movie. Wow. Because someone got fucking fired because this is one of the, like, it's the movie of the year.
Yeah.
And they gave it away. And like, Mubi, what a coup.
And the budget was like 17.5 million, and it gross worldwide, it's made 38 million, like
38 so far. But the thing is,
crazy,
what I mean, like, Ryan, you're right. It's going to win all the awards. It's going to be Criterion, Steelbook. It's going to be just talked about.
Yeah. It's the reason, like, for me, like, the way my barometer for how good a movie is, or like the longevity of it, is by how many of my fellow artists are also making posters for that movie. And it was like, it was like long legs, like leading up to it, people were talking about it, and then it came out and it just kind of was like, okay. But then seeing the enthusiasm for this, and like how much, like hearing other people talk about this film, specifically women, like finally having this movie is, shedding a light on what most men would ignore. And I think that's like, it's such an important movie. And I'm so glad it's us three men talking about it.
It's right,
finally.
The opposite version of the movie is like some 60-year-old guy in the mirror who's like not handsome at all. Going,
it's Selfless. The
I'm
Ryan
perfect,
Reynolds. It's the one where Ryan Reynolds puts it like the guy wants to be younger, so he then becomes Ryan Reynolds or some shit.
I've heard of it. Because you see it all the time. It's like all of these just like these Flavio Briatore's or the whatever. These 60, 70-year-old guys. It's like who are just not, they don't do anything. They don't even bother, and they're walking around with their supermodels, and they go, "Yeah, they're lucky to have me." And it's just like, because it's just the male and female. Like that's why it's such a great, like you're saying, Ryan, a phenomenal satire. But especially because that's why I told my missus, I go, "Honey, no, this movie is made for you." I mean, especially considering the industry we come out of and everything else. It's it is, Ryan. I'm like, you've been almost like. You've been talking about it so much. I was like, I was worried you'd overpromise and underdeliver, and no, you underpromised and
anyone knows me, I have not shut up about this movie since it came out. It's like a month ago.
And no, you haven't. And you were right.
Yeah.
I take it all back. Yeah. All those things I've been saying about you behind your back, I take it all back. Right?
Well, luckily I have my younger face coming out of my my back's hole.
but like we were saying is, like, ladies and gents, if you are for spooky season looking for a weird, out there, perfect trilogy to watch, it's sure. Do Exorcist 3, do Possession, do The Substance.
It's important you do it in that order. Yeah.
100%. It's like in The Substance, you've got to do step 1, step 2, step 3.
Yeah.
It won't work in a different order. You've got to start with Exorcist 3. You've got to start with, then go to Possession, and then you've got to finish with The Substance. It's a perfect 1, 2, 3 punch. It's so original. None of it's scary. It's just
no.
And we had a really hard time, like, and we'll get into that. I guess we can talk about the also rans. Like, it's horror is scary things are it's a very bizarre, subjective thing. Like, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out, like, fuck, what did I think was scary? Because you set us up to be like, well, you'll pick the movie for me to try and scare me. I'm like, well, I'm not really scared anymore. I think what pings into my fear is like things like anxiety and stuff like that. So I thought picking these 3 movies would be a nice like reprieve from that. Versus like The Haunting or some bullshit,
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, because I've worked in horror before, and so when you've kind of like worked on the other side of horror movies, it's once you know how the sausage is made, it's kind of like hard to get scared. by movies. The things that really scare me are like Civil War, that scene, with,
Oh yeah, for sure. Different type of
What
horror.
kind of American are you?
Yeah.
yeah, that
Yeah.
that scene specifically I found terrifying. And so that's the kind of stuff that scares me.
Yeah.
But once you worked out a horror set and you know that the monster is the co-director in like a wetsuit with KY jelly on him,
Yeah.
it's kind of not scary anymore.
That sounds pretty scary.
I was at a
well, only
Halloween...
Jordan's coming at you at night.
True, true. I was at a Halloween party last night, and I had a group of friends that had been trying to get me to watch this movie for a long time because they think they knew my horror sensibilities because I'm such a Terrifier fan, right? So they're like, "Oh my god, you have got to see the movie Tusk," and I'd heard of it. I know what it's about. I'm like, it's a movie I don't need to see, but they put it on last night, so I was like, fine, put it on just so you can stop talking about it. They touted this thing as like, you're never going to expect it. You're never going to see what's coming. Like, I predicted every fucking thing. It wasn't horrifying at all. It's a really shitty movie. It is hilarious to see Justin Long wearing this like Tusk outfit. It's like, well, I should say that like, had I seen this movie in 2014, I'd be like, oh, this is like super fucked up. But I am so depraved now and desensitized to like fucked up shit. But when I get to see something unique and original, like The Substance, it's so refreshing that I can watch this movie. It's not scary at all, but I was definitely not expecting it to be funny. Like I wasn't expecting to be laughing in the theater. And it's such a breath of fresh air. It's such a unique and different film. I think Adam Lance Garcia was talking about it when we did our episode. He had seen it at TIFF, I believe. And I was like, oh my God, I can't wait. And I went to see it the following week and I was fucking blown away by how good it was.
Yeah. I mean, that being said, as much as Will and I absolutely detest your love for the Terrifier franchise, I'm so angry that the world loves it. Terrifier 3 is blowing the fuck up. Like, the world cannot get enough. They're all talking about it. And I'm like... Oh, I'm so pissed because I'm going to have to watch both of these other ones, aren't I?
Yeah. If you look at them through the lens of like a comedy, you'll have a very different experience of it. Like fuck the gore or whatever. They're just fucking funny movies. As depraved as they are, like he is a very funny character. I think.
Well, a lot of people are agreeing with you, Ryan.
Yeah. Again, I've never been wrong.
A lot of dang ass freaks, let me tell you.
All my fellow sickos, let's go. Let's hang out.
But no joke, fellas, you did sterling work this week. Mm-hmm. These 3 movies, nuts. I've not seen any of them. They were all brand new watches. I went in completely blind to all 3. I came out the other side a changed human being. For the better, for the worse.
You look younger.
But but I tell you what, I'm glad I watched every single one of them.
Same,
And I think, like I said, if you're at home and you're stuck for something to watch, or you really want to do an interesting, strange trilogy, do these 3 because it really did set it up. But
or just watch The Substance.
to Coralie, Fargeat, that movie is incredible. What a movie. Mm-hmm. And to Demi Moore as well, to Margaret Qualley, like just fearless performances, balls to the wall. I've been trying to get everyone, like my daughter and my wife, to watch it. I'm like, no, guys, seriously, we got to see this movie. Like,
it's so good. It's fun for the whole family.
But I mean, the thing is, we don't even need to bother about the also rans because I think we got into it because you guys discovered a sort of genre horror that is just a bit trippy. I love these movies. As a horror person, I don't like the spooky stuff, the scary stuff, the gory stuff, but this one was, like I said, when it got to the point of everyone's covered in blood, I'm laughing.
Yeah.
And I'm just going, wow.
That's the thing. You go into this, you're like, you don't expect it to be funny or to be comical, but that's kind of the beauty of it, I think.
For sure.
Yeah. I was dying during that whole New Year's show thing. Like
the fight scene, just like there's just stuff in it that's so fun. Like Dennis Quaid is unfortunately legitimately funny in this movie.
Yeah, I do want his boots.
The boots that you hear, cool. this steel toed stomping throughout. The suits were wild. Oh man, I did have the only other also ran, but I'm pretty sure you'd seen the movie. I just love is The Descent. Like that.
Never seen it. That's a British movie, isn't it? Is that
maybe
British?
It might. The women, the women cave divers.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Could be.
I've heard because they made a sequel as well.
Yeah, don't watch that.
Yeah, it's a British horror movie. Yeah, Neil Marshall. Yeah,
Neil
it's
Marshall,
this.
okay.
So yeah, I've heard amazing things about that.
Oh, it's so good. I thought for sure you'd
because he
seen
did
it.
Dog Soldiers. Yes, I love Dog Soldiers. Have you ever seen that one? Like the Welsh British guy,
The werewolves, right?
Werewolf movie.
Yeah.
From 2002. No. Yeah, he did Doomsday Centurion. Yeah, I've seen quite a few of his movies.
Oh, if you haven't seen The Descent, that's a really great Halloween film I recommend.
All right. Well, we've got something for next year's State of Fear.
I'm gonna watch that today. Fuck you.
There's honestly nothing more to be said. This is, I think, one of my favorite episodes we've done.
It's a good week.
Trilogy of movies.
You watch all three of these movies
back to back.
Yeah, that's wild. Jesus. Ooh.
Just like it was wild, and what a day! What a day it was. Now we are going to take a week off next week.
7 days specifically. All of us.
7 days. I will be back 7 days after that, though. But we are going to kick off season 2 with a return to California, which is going to be great because I know there's we've done California twice now, but I like this. So many movies. Let's this time try not to all pick the exact same genre of movie.
I'm picking the novel Heat 2.
I assume we were gonna just pick one movie to go up against the previous winner.
Yeah, no, you're right. We're gonna talk about this. So when we kick off season 2, we're gonna see how we get into this one. But it really has been such an adventure that we've been on. It's been an absolutely wild ride. What a fantastic season it has been. It's been a real joy to have you guys joining me, doing this, coming along on this adventure with me. For all of you as well that are listening or watching at home, if you haven't already, what have you not subscribed for? Drop us a comment, get involved, especially on our Facebook page. Come and join us on the Facebook page. Drop us messages as well. You can always find me as That Englishman in Texas online, or you can find me as Ollie Pettigrew on Facebook. I like to talk about movies on Monday. Otherwise, I'm talking about life in Texas, one of the craziest states in the world. You can always find Will. He loves to talk movies, as Entitled Willennial on TikTok. He loves to get into his big collection of Blu-rays. He honestly is the Library of Congress when it comes to incredible movies. He knows a lot about stuff. And Ryan, as we have mentioned, is a now very famously retweeted designer of redesigned movie posters, does redesigns and things like that, also does his own designs. You can find it all as Rhino Digital on Etsy, on Threadless, and you can find people ripping off his stuff on Etsy as well, because he really is that good. To everyone else, you can find Exorcist 3 for free on YouTube. You can find Possession for free on YouTube. You can find The Substance. It's going to be streaming on Mubi in just a couple of days. Otherwise, if you can still catch it in theaters, 100%
definitely worth it.
Do it.
Because what an adventure. But I'll tell you what, fellas, I'm going to go and watch The Substance again. So from me, Ollie, from Ryan, from Will, thanks for joining us for this season of the United States of a Movie podcast.